welcome on this Monday morning, approximately 1 week before Election Day. There's millions of propositions. A lot of them are very scary. Their impact on very poor people is actually very serious. And so one of the reasons that Poor Magazine organized this action today is to bring truth to one of those propositions, which clearly and very simply will institutionalize the criminalization of poor people in San Francisco. It's based on the Giuliani model of the Manhattanization, the broken window, the idea that if houseless folks are sitting, standing, convening anywhere in the city, that they could be incarcerated and criminalized for the sole act of said sitting, standing, convening. Proposition L is a lie. Our chant for today is Proposition L is for legalized lies. Don't let anybody fool you about this will help the homeless problem. First of all, the homeless people are not a tribe who are walking this earth. As someone who's been houseless a lot of my life, was raised as a child in a houseless family, we are not a tribe walking the earth, the homeless people. We're people without homes. And if we had homes, we wouldn't be the homeless people. So first of all, this proposition does nothing to solve the homeless problem. What it does is bring the prison industrial complex to a neighborhood near you. The other thing that Poor Magazine has been working on for the last 2 years is connecting the global local poverty dots. The criminalization of migrant youth with ICE raids sweeping the whole entire nation, criminalizing poor migrant peoples for the sole act of trying to have a job is happening in this city. 11 families were raided last week, and Poor was part of a process to try to stop that. That same process, that same increase of polarized terror is what is informing this poverty court. So again, we're trying to come out, connect the dots, and really talk about the truth behind the criminalization of poor peoples in our city, and how is it okay that we can formally institutionalize a court that will incarcerate, cite, arrest people for the sole act of being poor and without a home. So I'm going to ask, is Poor Magazine's tradition, we integrate different forms of poverty scholarship. There's different kinds of media. Media is art, poetry, graffiti. So we're going to start today out with a short piece of poetry scholarship by Ram, one of the Poor Press authors. So come on up, Ram, and then we're going to get started with some of our other speakers.
The support. My poem is titled People Feel Lost. People feel lost. I believe violence levels are rising because people are at a point where we feel lost. We don't know what's going to happen next. The police are profiling us, harassing us, no jobs, after-school programs are being closed. People feel lost. People feel lost. There's tornadoes about to hit this down south again, and at least this time there are evacuations before. People feel lost. We always learn about the Holocaust in school, but don't want to find out solutions to the one that continues to happen right here, right now. People feel lost. Thank you.
The Coalition on Homelessness, who tirelessly work on these issues every day, along with Poor Magazine, Western Regional Advocacy Project, and other folks in the area, are going to come up and talk about some of the behind-the-scenes facts that are not getting out about this so-called solution to the homeless problem. Think about those ways of sweeping people up. It's the roots of fascism, my friends. Jennifer Friedenbach.
Thank you, Art. I just want to deconstruct a little what's being talked about in terms of this Community Injustice Center and take us back a little bit to when Newsom was running for mayor. And when when he was running for mayor, you could check his website and you'd see on there a whole nasty petition about how to get rid of homeless people, and this would basically do that. And what they talked about at that time was wanting something based on the Mid-Manhattan Court, which Tony referred to, which basically is a court that's in the middle of the world's largest corporations in Mid-Manhattan. And what they had there at one point is that you could see poor people on the streets. Now today, after they implemented that, the only poor folks you see around those corporations are wearing orange vests and sweeping the streets.
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
And the corporations are getting that labor for free.
That's right.
So they love this court. And you read about what a success it was, and they talk about how it was a success. Basically, it got rid of the visibility of poor people and poor people of color around those large corporate headquarters. And that's it. Okay? Then what we do, a couple months later, what happens? They start talking about, no, it's not a homeless court. It has nothing to do with homeless people. And actually, it's going to be based on Red Hook, which is restorative justice. And they start tossing around all these kind of lefty progressive concepts. And then actually, when you break it down and you get the proposal for it, what does it have? Well, it's basically a bunch of money for folks to be sheriffs, to have transportation from jail, to build 2 new jail cells, to have additional court reporters, all these huge expenses, all within walking distance of 850 Bryant. And what the concept is they redline the poorest neighborhood in San Francisco, and they basically, anything that happens in this area goes specifically to that court. So it's kind of a separate situation, and what the rhetoric is, once again, kind of pulling on these kind of lefty ideas that end up being a farce is, we're going to get people in there, into that court, and we're going to get them into services. Well, I looked at the budget. There's no services in that court. They've got basically paper pushers, quasi-case managers, coordinators, and they're spending $1 million on that, and then another $2 million on a bunch of other stuff around the building and sheriffs, etc. So this idea that this is somehow going to get people into services, frankly, is a lie and not true at all. I want to talk a little bit also about this homeless concept. There's been a lot of stuff. Oh, the folks who are pushing it now, they're saying, well, that was the mayor's idea. It's really not going to be about homeless people. It's not going to be about homeless people at all. It's going to be about graffiti and all these other things, and drug dealing, basically graffiti and drug dealing, and drug dealing and graffiti. So they keep saying that over and over again, okay? So what we did is, through this process, we tried to call them on it. We said, if it's not about homeless people, take out the infractions. What the mayor wanted to do, remember going back a few days, he wanted police to be able to go around, pick up a homeless person off the street, and bring them directly to the court. That was the original concept. Of course, it turns out that's kind of illegal. Actually, you can't just pick somebody up who hasn't done anything wrong and take them to court.